I'm back with the third part of capital gain, in which I'll be covering 7 exercise questions from ICA Study Mat. Please do watch the video till the end. Do like and share with your friends and subscribe my channel. So before starting, you need the PDF file and it's given in the description box. The video link of part 1 and part 2 is given in the description of capital gain as well. Okay. So exercise question number 1. Hari has acquired a residential house property in Delhi on 15th April 2002 for 9 lakhs and decided to sell the same on 3rd May 2005 to Miss Pari and advance of rupees 25,000 was taken from her. Okay. The balance money was not paid by Miss Pari and Hari has forfeited the entire advance sum. Okay, so as we all know that any advance sum which is forfeited on before 1/4/2014, then the amount will be advance forfeited amount will be reduced from the cost of acquisition. Okay, so in this case 25,000 will be reduced from cost of acquisition while computing the capital gain in the hands of Mr. Hari. Okay, and any amount which is forfeited on or after 1st April 2014, it is chargeable to tax under the head income from other sources under section 5629. Okay, now let's move further. On 3rd June 2019, he has sold this house to Miss Suri for 40 lakhs. Okay, capital gain will be computed in this. In the meantime, on 4th April 2019, that is before June, he had purchased a residential house in Delhi for 8 lakhs where he was staying with his family on rent for the last 5 years and paid the full amount as per the purchase agreement. The amount which they purchased, the residential house which they purchased for 8 lakhs, they were staying in that house for last 5 years and paying rent on that. Okay, that house only they have purchased for 8 lakhs. Okay. However, Hari does not possess any legal title till 31st March 2020 as such transfer was not registered with the registration authority. Okay, this will not make any effect while computing the exemption under section 54. So whether house is registered on till the end of the year or not, that doesn't make any difference. The amount has been fully paid. The amount should have been fully paid before the end of the year for claiming exemption under section 54. So they have paid the amount, so they will get the exemption under section 54. Hari has purchased another old house in Chennai on 14th October 2019 from Mr. X, an Indian resident, by paying rupees 5 lakhs, and the purchase was registered with the appropriate authority. You will get the exemption of 5 lakhs as well. We'll see to that in the solution. Determine the taxable capital gain arising from above transaction in the hands of Hari for assessment year 2021. Cost inflation index of 2023 is 105, 2005-6 is 117, and 2019-20 is 289. Okay, let's see the solution. Computation of taxable capital gain of Mr. Hari for the assessment year 2021. Sale proceeds 40 lakhs, it was given, less cost or index cost of acquisition. As it is long term, so indexation will be done. Okay, for any house property 24 months is taken for long term. Okay, so it will be a long term. Okay, now let's see index cost of acquisition, how they have calculated. Let's see note 1. Cost computation of index cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition is 9 lakh as it was given, as it is Mr. Hari has acquired the house property for 9 lakhs, less advance taken and forfeited 25,000. As I said, that advance forfeited before 1/4/2014, it will reduce from the cost of acquisition. So they have reduced, and cost for the purpose of indexation is 8,75,000. Index cost of acquisition is 8,75,000 into 289 divided by 105, year of sale divided by year of acquisition. Okay, that is coming to 24,08,333. So let's put it up. Index cost of acquisition is 24,08,333. Now long term capital gain is coming to 15,91,667. Okay, now we are computing exemption under section 54. Exemption under section 54 in respect of investment in house at Delhi, that is 8 lakh, it was given. he will get the exemption. Exemption under section 54 in respect of investment house at Chennai. See note 2 and 3 will see note. 5 lakh is exemption is given, and the amount capital gain is coming to, total long term capital gain is coming to 2,91,667. Okay, so we'll see the note, what they are saying. Note: advance received and forfeited on or after 1st April 2014 is taxable under section 56(2)(9). Such amount would not be deducted, should not be reduced to compute index cost of acquisition while determining capital gain on sale of such property. However, in this case, since the advance was received and forfeited in the year 2005, such advance has to be reduced for calculating index cost of acquisition for the purpose of arising at capital gain, as I said. So they have done reduced from the cost of asset. So let's move to note 2. In order to avail exemption of capital gain under section 54, residential house should be purchased within 1 year before, they have purchased within 1 year before, or 2 years after the date of transfer, or construct within a period of 3 years after the date of transfer. In this case, Hari has purchased a residential house in Delhi within 1 year before the date of transfer and paid the full amount as per the purchase agreement. Though he does not possess any legal title till 31st March, since the transfer was not registered with the registration authority. However, for the purpose of claiming exemption under section 54, holding of legal title is not necessary. As I said, holding of legal title is not necessary. If the taxpayer pays the full consideration in terms of the purchase agreement within the stipulated period, okay, the exemption under section 54 would be available. Okay, it was so held in Balraj versus CIT 2002 254 ITR 22 Delhi, and CIT versus Shehzada Begum 1988 173 ITR 397 Andhra Pradesh. Okay, hope you have understood this. Now move to note number 3. As per section 54, since the amount of capital gain does not exceed 2 crores, Mr. Hari can claim exemption thereunder in respect of investment made in 2 residential houses situated in India. As we all know that if the capital gain does not exceed 2 crores, okay, then he can get exemption in respect of 2 house property, but this exemption is available once in a lifetime. Okay, remember that, once in a lifetime. However, if Mr. Hari exercises the option to claim exemption in respect of 2 residential house in Delhi and Chennai in previous year 1920, he shall not be subsequently entitled to exercise the option for the same or any other assessment years. That means in that assessment year and in any other future assessment year, he will not get any exemption. Okay, in respect of 2 residential house property, only once in lifetime you can claim exemption. Okay, and for rest of the assessment years you can claim for only one in respect of 1 residential house property under section 54. Okay, now hope you have understood the solution. The capital gain is coming to after deducting the exemption, taxable long term capital is coming to 2,91,667. Okay, hope you have understood this sum. Now moving to question number 2. The proprietary firm of Mr. Amlok, a practicing chartered accountant, was converted into partnership on 1st September 2019 when his son joined him in the firm for 50% share. Okay, a sole proprietorship firm of Mr. Amlok was converted into partnership firm and his son has joined the firm, so they are 2 partners. All the assets and liabilities of the earliest while proprietary firm were transferred into the newly constituted partnership firm. Mr. Amlok was created and paid an amount of rupees 5 lakhs in his account from the firm, okay, as a consideration. Explain as to the chargeability of this amount of 5 lakhs in the hands of Mr. Amlok when it stands paid for. Number one is transfer of business into partnership firm. Okay, it will be chargeable to capital gain. And number two, goodwill by the incoming partner. We'll see to that. It is a goodwill of profession. Okay, so we'll see the solution. Let's see the answer. If the amount was paid for transfer of business profession to partnership, okay, as per section 45(3), the profit and gain arising from transfer of capital gain from transfer of capital asset by a person to the firm in which he becomes a partner shall be chargeable to tax as the income of the previous year, which when such transfers take place. It should be when such transfers take place. The amount recorded in the books of account of the firm would be deemed to be the full value of consideration received or accruing as a result of transfer of capital asset. Okay, the amount which is recorded in the firm, that will be the full value of consideration, okay, for computation of capital gain. Since in this case consideration of 5 lakh is received for such transfer, profit or gain accruing to the transferor for the purpose of section 44, the amount of 5 lakh would be the full value of consideration received as a result of transfer, and capital gain resulting from this transfer would be chargeable to tax. Okay, 5 lakhs will be chargeable to tax. That was our first part answer. Hope you have understood. In the second part, they are asking if the amount is paid by the incoming partner for goodwill. Okay, the Supreme Court in CIT versus BC Srinivasa Setty 1981 128 ITR 294 observed that the income chargeable to capital gain tax is to be computed by deducting from the full value of consideration the cost of acquisition of capital asset. Okay, if it is not possible to ascertain the cost of acquisition, then transfer of such asset is not chargeable to tax. If the amount of cost of acquisition is not ascertainable, then as per this case law, then the transfer will not be chargeable to capital gain tax. Okay, so section 55 2A provides that cost of acquisition of certain self-generated asset including goodwill of business is nil. As we have studied in capital gain, that goodwill of business, if it is self-generated, then its cost of acquisition will be nil. Okay, therefore in respect of these self-generated asset covered under section 55 2A, the decision of Supreme Court in BC Srinivasa Setty case would not apply, as it is a goodwill of profession, as we all know. However, in respect of other self-generated asset including goodwill of profession, the decision of the Supreme Court in BC Srinivasa Setty case would continue to apply. So if that case law is applied, then no capital gain on goodwill of profession. Okay, in case of self-generated asset not covered under section 55 2A, since the cost is not ascertainable, there would be no capital gain tax liability. Okay, therefore in this case, since the consideration of 5 lakhs is paid towards goodwill of profession whose cost is not to be taken as nil, since it is not covered under section 55 2A, the liability of capital gain will not arise. As we all know that if we are not able to determine the cost of acquisition of this asset, okay, cost of acquisition of goodwill of profession, so as it is not nil, as we are not able to determine the cost of acquisition, so it will not be chargeable to capital gain tax, and so 5 lakhs in this case, it will not be taxable. Okay, let's move to question number 3. Mr. Ganesh sold his residential house in Mumbai and earned long-term capital gain of 2.5 crores. He purchased 2 residential flats adjacent to each other on the same day via 2 separate registered sale deed from 2 different persons. Okay, the builder had certified that he had effected necessary modification to make it one residential apartment. That 2 apartment is combined into one residential apartment by the builder. Okay, Mr. Ganesh sought exemption under section 54 in respect of the investment made in purchase of the 2 residential flats. Okay, he is claiming exemption under section 54. The assessing officer, however, gave exemption under section 54 to the extent of purchase of one residential flat only, contending that since the long-term capital gain exceeds 2 crore, subsection 1 of section 54 clearly restricts the benefit of exemption to purchase one residential house only, and the two flats cannot be treated as one residential unit, since the flat was purchased through two different sale deed, and it was found by the inspector that before its sale to the SEC, the residential flat were in occupation of two different tenants. Okay, examine the correctness of the contention of the assessing officer. As we all know that we have covered in previous sum, that if the amount of capital gain does not exceed 2 crores, okay, then we can get exemption under section 51 in respect of two residential house property. But as the amount is exceeding 2.5 crores, the AO is telling that in respect of two residential houses he will not get exemption. But the AO contention is wrong, because as the two residential house property is getting merged into a single unit, okay, and the builder is certifying that he will make necessary modification to make that two residential apartment into a single apartment, so he will get the exemption. Mr. Ganesh will get the exemption in respect of that two residential house property which is combined into one, as it will be considered as a single unit. Okay, so AO contention is wrong in this case, and Mr. Ganesh will get the exemption under section 54 in respect of both the units which is merged into one single unit. So let's see the solution. This issue came up before the Karnataka High Court in CIT versus D. Ananda Basappa 2009, 309 ITR 329. The court observed that the SEC had shown that the flats were situated side by side, and the builder has also certified that he has effected modification of the flat to make them one unit by opening the door between the apartment. That was not written, they have added it, okay, by opening the door between the apartment. Therefore, it was immaterial that the flat were occupied by two different tenants prior to the sale, or that it was purchased through different sale deed. That is immaterial. Okay, the apartment, if it is combined into a single unit, then he will get the exemption in respect of both the units which is merged into a single unit. Okay, so the court observed that there were not the ground to hold that the SEC did not have the intention to purchase the two flat as one unit. The court held that the SEC was entitled to exemption under section 54 in respect of purchase of both the flats to form one residential house. Applying the ratio of the above decision to the case on hand, Mr. Ganesh is entitled to exemption under section 54 in respect of purchase of two flats to form one residential house. Therefore, the contention of assessing officer is not correct. Okay, it was a nice question. Now moving to question number 4. Vijay, an individual, owned 3 residential houses which were let out. Mr. Vijay individually owned 3 residential houses. He has let out all the 3 houses. Besides, he and his 4 brothers co-owned a residential house in equal share. That is a 5th house in which Mr. Vijay is having a co-ownership. Okay, he sold one residential house owned by him during the previous year relevant to the assessment year 2021. Out of the 3 houses, he has sold one house. Within a month from the date of such sale, the 4 brothers executed a release deed in respect of their share to the owned residential house in favor of Vijay for monetary consideration. Okay, they are releasing their shares and they are selling it to Mr. Vijay. Okay, so let's see. Vijay utilized the entire long-term capital gain arising out of the sale of the residential house for the payment of the said consideration to his 4 brothers. Okay, the house property which has sold, which was individually sold by him, he is utilizing that capital gain, entire capital gain, for the payment of consideration to all the 4 brothers. Okay, Vijay is not using the house in respect of which his brother executed a release deed for his residential purpose, but he has let it out to another person who is using it for his residential purpose. That doesn't make any difference who is using the house. That the house should be used for residential purpose for claiming exemption. Okay, Is Vijay eligible for exemption under section 54 of the Income Tax Act? Yes, for the assessment year 2021 in respect of the long-term capital gain arising from sale of his residential house which he utilized for the acquiring the share of his brothers in the co-owned residential house. Okay, that is one part of the question. Will the non-use of the new house for his own residential purpose disentitle him to exemption? No, it will not make any difference. As I said, that who is using the house, that doesn't make any difference. The house must be used for residential purpose. Okay, hope you have understood the question. Now let's see the answer. The long-term capital gain arising on sale of residential house would be exempt under section 54 if it is utilized inter alia for purchase of one residential house situated in India within 1 year before or 2 years after the date of transfer. Release by the other co-owner of their share in co-owned property in favor of Mr. Vijay would amount to purchase by Vijay for the purpose of claiming exemption under section 54. Okay, that is given a case law, CIT versus TN Arvinda Reddy, 1979, 120 ITR 46 Supreme Court. Okay, as per the case law, it is saying that if any co-owner release their share and in respect of that he is getting the person is getting the consideration, and the person giving the consideration, it will be considered that he has purchased the house. Okay, so whatever the consideration Mr. Vijay is paying, that will be considered as he has purchased the house, and he will get the exemption under section 54 while paying the amount to his 4 brothers. Okay, since such purchase is within the stipulated time of 2 years from the date of transfer of asset, Vijay is eligible for exemption under section 54. He will get the exemption, as I said, as Vijay has utilized the entire long-term capital gain arising out of the sale of the residential house for payment of consideration to the other co-owners who have released their shares in his favor. He can claim full exemption under section 54, as it is said in the question that he has utilized the full amount of capital gain arising from sale of his individual residential house. He have utilized the entire amount of long-term capital gain in payment of payment to his 4 brothers for the consideration of shares on the released property. Okay, so he will get the exemption under section 54. Therefore, there is no requirement in section 54 that the new house should be used by the assessee for his own residence. The condition stipulated is that the new house should be utilized for residential purpose and its income is chargeable under the head income from house property. Okay, its income will be chargeable, whatever income is getting from the rental income. Okay, it will be chargeable under the income from house property. This requirement would be satisfied even when the house new house is let out for residential purpose. Okay, this was a second part answer. 2 questions was there, so this is a second part answer. It can be used by any person, but it should be used for residential purpose. Okay, now moving to question number 5. Aries Tubes Private Limited went into liquidation on 1st June 2019. The company was seized and possessed of the following funds prior to the distribution of assets to the shareholders. Share capital issued on 1st April 2013, that is 5 lakhs. Reserves prior to 1/6/2019, okay, that is 3 lakhs. Excess realization in the course of liquidation is 5 lakhs. Okay, that is the excess realization, that is amount is been realized on the after disposing of all the assets. Excess amount which is realized is 5 lakhs. There are 5 shareholders, each of whom received 2,60,000 from the liquidator in full settlement. Shareholders receiving 2,60,000 each. Okay, the shareholders desire to invest the resultant element of capital gain in long-term specified assets as defined in section 54 EC. you are required to examine the various issues and advise the shareholders about their liability to income tax. As we all know, whenever at the time of liquidation any asset is distributed by the company to the shareholders, then it is an exempt transfer and company is not liable to pay any tax. But in the hands of the shareholders, as he is relinquishing his title in the shares of the company, he will any amount received by the shareholders from the company, that will be any amount or assets which is received by the shareholders from the company, that will be the full value of consideration, and any amount which is deemed as dividend under section 222C at the time of liquidation, as we know that any amount distributed by the company to the shareholders up to the amount of reserve, it is deemed as dividend under section 222C. So while computing capital gain in the hands of shareholders, that deemed dividend will be reduced from the capital gain while computing capital gain in the hands of shareholders. Okay, so that amount will be reduced, and after that cost of acquisition of the shares will be also be reduced, and then capital gain will be computed in the hands of the shareholders. That is, in this case, as we can see that 2,60,000 is the consideration received by each shareholders, and reserve is 3 lakhs, and if we divide the reserve 3 lakhs into 5 shareholders, that is coming to 60,000. So 60,000 is deemed as dividend in the hands of each. In the total deemed dividend, company has paid 3 lakhs. So in the hands of each shareholders, while computing capital gain, 60,000 will be reduced as deemed dividend. Okay, and the amount 5 lakhs has been paid in total by 5 shareholders. So 1 lakh each has been paid by each shareholders. That will be also be reduced while computing capital in the hands of shareholders. So 2,60,000 minus 60,000 minus 1 lakh, that will be capital gain in the hands of the shareholders. Okay, let's see the solution. Under section 46(1), where the assets of the company are distributed to the shareholders on its liquidation, such distribution shall not be regarded as transfer in the hands of the company for the purpose of section 45. Okay, however, section 46(2), where the shareholders on liquidation of the company receives any money or other assets from the company, he shall be chargeable to income tax under the head capital gain, as I said, in respect of the money so received or market value of the other assets on the date of distribution. Okay, as reduced by the amount deemed dividend under section 222C, and the sum so arrived at such shall be deemed to be the full value of consideration for the purpose of section 48. Okay, as per section 222C, they are telling deemed dividend section, dividend includes any distribution made to the shareholders of the company on its liquidation to the extent to which distribution is attributable to the accumulated profit of the company immediately before its liquidation, whether capitalized or not. So 3 lakh is the deemed dividend amount. So, okay, so 3 lakh will be reduced, that will be divided into 5 shareholders, that is coming to each for each shareholder's share is coming to 60,000. So that will be reduced while computing capital gain. Okay, in this case the accumulated profit immediately before liquidation is 3 lakhs. Okay, the share of each shareholder is 60,000, being 1/5 of 3 lakhs. An amount of 60,000 is deemed as dividend under section 222C. The same is exempt under section 1034 in the hands of the shareholders, since the company is liable to dividend distribution tax in respect of the same. There is 7 something written. It is assumed that shareholders have received the dividend only from Aries Tube Private Limited. They are assuming that we have to write a assumption also, a domestic company during the previous year 1920. You can write that, and after that they are telling, therefore 2 lakh, that is 2,60,000 minus 60,000 being the dividend under section 222C, is the full value of consideration in the hands of each shareholder as per section 46(2). Against this, the investment of 1 lakh by each shareholder is to be deducted to arrive at the capital gain of 1 lakh of each shareholders. Okay, the benefit of indexation is available to the shareholders since the shares are held for more than 24 months, and hence long-term capital gain, long-term capital asset. So as we all know, whenever any long term for computing long term capital gain in the hand of shareholders, as it in unlisted shares, so 24 months will be taken for computing long term. So but could not be computed in the absence of required information, as in the given case. In the sum, indexation we cannot do because indexation information is not given, so they are telling that as indexation information is missing, we cannot capital index cost of acquisition. Since the equity shares are not listed, it would not be liable for security transaction tax, and hence the capital gain, long term capital gain, would be taxable under section 112, as we have not, as it is not listed shares, so he will not get the benefit of 112A, and he have to pay tax under section 112. Okay, so he will not get the benefit of concessional rate of tax, that is 10%, which is given in section 112A. The benefit of concessional rate of tax at the rate of 10% without indexation would also not be available. Hence, such long-term capital gain would be taxable at the rate of 20% with indexation benefit. You will get the indexation benefit and it will be taxable at the rate of 20%. Now see, exemption under section 54 EC is available only where there is an actual transfer of capital asset, and not in the case of deemed capital asset, as per the decision rendered in the case of CIT versus Ruby Trading Company Private Limited, 2003 259 ITR 54 Raj. Therefore, exemption under section 54 EC will not be available in this case, since it is a deemed transfer and not actual transfer. It is a deemed transfer, so he will not get the exemption under section 54 EC, as section 54 EC says that it should be an actual transfer, not deemed transfer. Further, with effect from assessment year 1920, exemption under section 54 EC is available only on transfer of long-term capital asset being land or building or both. So as per section 54 EC, okay, whenever any land and building is sold, then only you will get the exemption under section 54 EC, and we have to invest in the bonds which is mentioned in section 54 EC. Okay, let's start with question number 6. Xavier has taken a loan under registered mortgage deed against the house which was purchased by him on 26 May 2002 for 5 lakhs. The said property was inherited by his son Abraham in financial year 9-10 as per will. So as per will he is getting the said property, so it will not be taxable under the head income from other sources in the hands of Mr. Abraham. Okay. For obtaining a clear title thereof, Abraham paid the outstanding amount of loan on 12th February 2010 of 15 lakhs. So it will be part of cost of acquisition while calculating capital gain in the hands of Abraham. That will be taken as cost of acquisition, as because he has paid the outstanding amount which was taken by his father as loan, and he has paid the amount of loan of 15 lakhs. The said house property was sold by Abraham on 16 March 2020 for 50 lakhs. That will be the sale consideration. Examine with reason the amount chargeable to capital gain for assessment year 2021. Cost inflation index of 2002-3 is 105, 2009-10 is 148, and 2019-20 is 289. So let's move to the solution. The cost of inherited property to Abraham shall be the cost to the previous owner as per the provision of section 49(1)(3)(a), and therefore 5 lakhs being the cost to his father, that is the amount paid by his father on 26 May 2000. It will be not 1, it will be 2 for acquiring the property, shall be the cost to the Abraham, who is the new owner. So previous owner was his father and he has got it by will, so cost of acquisition will be the cost which Mr. Abraham father has paid, that will be cost to Mr. Abraham. Okay. Payment of outstanding loan of predecessor by the successor for obtaining a clear title of the property by release of mortgage deed shall be the cost of acquisition of the successor under section 48 read with rule 55(2) of the act as held by the apex court in case of RM Arunachalam versus CIT 1997 227 ITR 222. Okay, so it, as I said, it will be the cost of acquisition. 15 lakhs will be his cost of acquisition while computing the capital gain. So computation of taxable capital gain for the assessment at 2021. Sale consideration of house property is 50 lakhs as it was given, less index cost of acquisition. Indexation will be done as it is the long term capital gain. So indexation will be cost of the previous one of 5 lakhs into 289 divided by 148. Instead of 148 you can solve it by taking, instead of 148 you can take it base cost inflation index of 105 as, and you can write on J Manjula Shah case law. Okay, that will be also correct. You can solve it that way also. I will see in the note given below, in that it is written that as per J Manjula Shah you can take it out in 5 lakhs into 289 divided by 105. Okay, because as he is taking cost of acquisition of the previous owner, base year index should be also be taken as the year in which his father has acquired the property, that is 2000, in which he has father acquired for 2002-3. Okay, so that year should be taken, but they have solved it by taking the year in which Mr. Abraham has occupied the property. Mr. Abraham has acquired by way of will. Okay, the as per their solution the amount is coming to 9,76,351. Okay, and loan amount paid by Mr. Abraham. Benefit of cost inflation index is available since the loan amount was repaid in the financial year 910. So inflation index in this case will be same. There will no change. 15 lakh into 289 divided by 148, that is correct. 29 lakh, the amount is coming to 29 lakh 29,054 rupees, and total amount is coming to, cost inflation index is coming to 39 lakh 5,405, and the capital gain 50 lakh minus 39 lakh 5,405, that and the coming amount of capital gain is coming to 10 lakh 94,595. Okay, let's see the note. Since the property was acquired by Mr. Abraham through inheritance, the cost of acquisition will be the cost of the previous owner, 5 lakhs. As per the definition of index cost of acquisition under clause 3 of explanation below, section 48, indexation benefit will be available only from the previous year in which Abraham first held the asset, that is previous year 910. So they have taken this view that as per when the Mr. Abraham has got the property, from that year indexation will be done. Okay, base year in cost inflation index will be taken off 910. But however, let's see what they are saying. However, as per the view expressed by Bombay High Court in case of CIT versus Manjula J Shah 2013 355 ITR 474, in case of cost of acquisition of capital asset in the hands of the SSC is taken to be the cost of such asset in the hands of the previous owner, the indexation benefit would be available from the year in which the capital asset is acquired by the previous owner. As I said, the previous owner cost is taken, so base year indexation should be taken of the previous owner as well. So if this view is considered, the index cost of acquisition would be 43,05,244. How the amount is coming? 13,76,190 plus 29,29,054 rupees. 29,29,054 is same, but 13,76,190 came. How it came? That is 5 lakh into 289 divided by 105, that is cost inflation index of the year 2002-3. Okay, so the amount is coming to 13,76,190, and the long term capital gain would be, that will also change as because the cost inflation index is changing, so amount of capital gain will also get reduced. Okay, let's move to question number 7. Gamma Limited, located within the corporation limit, decided in 2019, December 2019, decided should not be there, to shift its industrial undertaking to non-urban areas. Okay, the company sold some of the asset and acquired new asset in the process of shifting. Okay, he has sold some asset and acquired new assets in the process of shifting. Okay, the relevant details are as follows: land is given, building is given, plant and machinery is given, furniture is given. Okay, so sale proceed. Sale effected in March 2020. Sale has been effected in March 2020. So land sale value is 8 lakhs, building sale value is 18 lakhs, plant and machinery value is 16 lakhs, and furniture value is 3 lakhs. Index cost of acquisition is given 4 lakh, 10 lakh, 12 lakh and 2 lakh. Okay, respectively. The WDV in terms of section 50 is, for land is not given anything, nil. Building is given 4 lakh, plant and machinery 5 lakh and furniture is 2 lakh. Cost of new asset purchased in July 2020 for the purpose of business in the new place is 4 lakh for land, 7 lakh for building, 17 lakh for plant and machinery and 3 lakh for furniture. Compute the capital gain of Gamma Limited for the assessment year 2021. Okay, so as we all know that whenever any undertaking, that is industrial undertaking, is shifted from urban area to rural area, then if you acquire a new asset means plant and machinery, land, building in rural area, which is shifted to a new that is a new unit is shifted to a rural area, then if you acquire an asset being plant and machinery, land, building, then you will get the exemption under section 54G. But furniture, if you invest in furniture, that is new asset, if you purchase new furniture, then you won't get exemption under section 54G. Okay, so in this case, exemption under section 54G will be given when he acquire land, building, plant and machinery, not furniture. That is, he will get exemption in respect of 4 lakh, 7 lakh and 17 lakh. Okay, first of all you have to calculate the capital gain, then we'll see how much exemption he will be getting. Okay, so let's see how the solution goes. Section 54G deals with deduction in respect of any capital gain that may arise from transfer of an industrial undertaking situated in urban area in the course or in consequence of shifting to a non-urban area, that is rural area. If 54G exemption is given only if we shift urban area industrial undertaking to a rural area. Okay, non-urban area or rural area, you can say that. Okay, if the SSE purchase new plant and machinery, or plant, or acquires a building or land, or constructs a new building, or shifts the original assets and transfers the establishment to new area within 1 year before or 3 years after the date on which transfer takes place, then instead of capital gain being chargeable to tax, it will be dealt with as under. Okay, if the capital gain is greater than the cost of new asset, then the difference between the capital gain and cost of new asset shall be chargeable as income under section 54. If suppose your capital gain is 10 lakh and you invest only 8 lakh, okay, then 2 lakh will be chargeable to capital gain tax. If you capital gain is 10 lakh and you invest entire amount, okay, of capital gain in the cost of new asset within the as mentioned above, that is plant and machinery, land, building, in this assets if you invest, okay, then, and if you invest entire capital gain, then entire capital gain will be exempt. Okay, so point number 2, if the capital gain is equal to or less than the cost of the new asset, section 45 is not to be applied. Okay, then no capital gain will be chargeable to tax, entire amount will be exempted under section 54G. The capital asset referred to in section 54G are machinery or plant or land or building or any right in building or land. Capital gain arising on transfer of furniture does not qualify for exemption under section 54G. So no exemption is therefore available under section 54G in respect of investment of 2 lakhs in acquiring furniture. As I said, 2 lakh exemption will not be given as furniture is not covered in the definition of new plant and machinery or assets which is being purchased in the rural areas. Okay, so let's move to the first step, what they are doing. The first step therefore is to determine the capital gain arising out of the transfer and thereafter apply the provision of section 54. As I said, first we'll compute the capital gain, then we'll see how much exemption we'll be getting. See, first land sale proceeds, it's non-depreciable assets. 8 lakh is sale proceeds less index cost of acquisition as it was given in the question. 4 lakh long-term capital gain, it will be a long-term capital gain period of according to the period of holding. So 54G exemption which is taken 3 lakhs, we'll see it later on. Okay, so now let's move to building. Sale proceed is 18 lakh as it is given in the question. We'll see 18 lakh sale proceeds is 18 lakh. Okay, and index cost of acquisition will not be taken as we will take WDV as per section 50. Okay, so sale proceed as it is a depreciable asset, so we'll take WDV as per section 50. So WDV is deemed as cost of acquisition under section 50. So amount is 4 lakh. Short term capital gain 14 lakh will be there. As we all know, when section 50 is applied, when section 50 is applied, then any amount of capital gain will be there. It will always be a short term capital gain. So in this case, 14 lakh is a short term capital gain. Plant and machinery sale proceed is 16 lakh. It is also depreciable asset. Less WDV is deemed cost under section 50, 5 lakh, same as building we are taking it. And index cost of acquisition is not taken, it's WDV as per section 50 is taken. 5 lakh is given in the question. So short term capital gain is coming to 11 lakh. Furniture, it is also depreciable asset, so sale proceed is 3 lakh. WDV as per section 50 will be 2 lakh. Short term capital gain 1 lakh. Okay, now let's compute summary. Short term capital gain on building is 14 lakh. Short term capital gain on plant and machinery is 11 lakh. Total is coming to 25 lakhs. So total how much exemption he will be getting, let's see. See the note below, then we'll move up how the exemption has been calculated, how it has been segregated. Total exemption available under section 54G is 28 lakh, that is 4 lakh plus 7 lakh plus 17 lakh. That is, it has taken the amount of new asset purchase, that is land, plant and machinery and building. They have taken land, building and plant and machinery. They have not taken furniture because it's not able, exemption will not be given if you purchase furniture. Okay, so the amount is coming to 28 lakh. The exemption should first be exhausted against short term capital gain, as the incidence of tax in case of short term capital gain is more than in case of long term capital gain. So they have utilized the exemption first against short term capital gain, then if any available exemption, then they have utilized against long term capital gain because tax is higher in short term capital gain. So they have taken first short term capital gain for exemption, then they have taken for long term capital gain. Okay, so that their tax liability is reduced. Therefore 25 lakhs is exhausted against short term capital gain and balance 3 lakhs against long term capital gain. Okay, so let's see. So total capital gain, short term capital gain was in respect of building was 14 lakhs and plant and machinery was 11 lakhs, that is coming to 25 lakhs. Furniture they have not taken because it will not get the benefit of exemption under section 54G, so they have not taken that. So it's coming to total is coming to 25 lakhs and exemption totally they have taken 25 lakhs, so an amount of net short term capital is coming to nil. Okay, and balance 3 lakh of exemption under section 54G, which I have left it out before. That is, they have shown it this way: in land and building, cost of new asset purchased within 3 years after the date of transfer under section 54G, that is 3 lakh, that is they have utilized for benefit of exemption in case of land. So the taxable long term capital gain is coming in case of land is 1 lakh, and for furniture is 1 lakh, total is 2 lakh. Okay, let's see the solution. 1 lakh short term is there, 1 lakh long term is there. Okay, taxable capital gain would be long term capital gain is 1 lakh, that is taxable at the rate of 20% under section 112. Okay, as indexation benefit was given, so after indexation you will get 20% tax, 20% will be taxable. Okay, and short term capital gain in respect of furniture, it will be taxable at the either 30% or 25% as the case may be, because it is a company. Okay, I'm showing you, it is a Gamma Limited. Okay, it's a company, so 30% or 25% respectively tax will be charged. Hope you have understood this question as well. So in this part I have covered 7 questions, rest I will be covering in the last part. So if there is any doubt relating to this questions and all, so please write me in the comment box. Please do subscribe my channel and also share with your friends so that they can also use this channel and they can also solve the questions. Okay, hope you liked it. So anyone willing to solve IDT ICAI questions, please click the link given in the description box. Thank you. Study hard, and it's just time August, only 14 days are left for the month of August. So study hard, stay healthy. Bye bye.